Good morning. My name is Zachary Hollingham. I'm a physiotherapist with the Burlington Family Health Team. Today, I'll be presenting a module on different types of exercise for people with COPD. This module fits alongside other modules created by myself and my peers and is meant to follow my previous module on the purpose of exercise for people with COPD. The main question I'm hoping to answer today throughout this module is what type of exercise can help me feel better given my symptoms of COPD. I'm going to begin just with a disclaimer. So the information contained in this module is for general informational purposes only. It should not replace the care of a health professional. Any reliance you place on the information is at your own risk, and the content is not substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. It is recommended that you visit a qualified healthcare professional before beginning any exercise program. In this module, I will discuss the definitions of exercise and physical activity. We'll go over in some depth the types of exercise that are known to be helpful for people with COPD, and those are aerobic exercise and strengthening/resistance exercise. I'll talk about other types of exercise to improve your overall fitness and name some places that you can find help in getting started. So let's start with some definitions. What is exercise? Well, in order to define exercise, I must first define physical activity. Physical activity is any movement that results in energy expenditure. And so this can be something simple like a daily task such as washing the dishes or walking to your car. Exercise is different from physical activity because it is planned, structured, and repetitive movement with the aim of improving your physical fitness. So one good example of this could be walking at a brisk pace for 30 minutes, 3 times per week over the course of an 8-week period. That would be exercise because it is planned, structured, and repetitive and has the aim of improving your physical fitness. I think we can all think of many different examples of exercise, such as cycling, being on a peddler, or lifting weights. With that being said, Canadian guidelines on the amount of exercise and physical activity that people should get states that in order to achieve maximum health benefits, adults aged 18 to 64, as well as older adults, should accumulate at least 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous intensity aerobic physical activity per week in bouts of 10 minutes or more. Also recommended that it's beneficial to add muscle and bone strengthening activities using the major muscle groups at least 2 days per week. Lastly, it's said that more physical activity provides greater health benefits. So in these guidelines, it's clear that both physical activity and exercise are kind of equally important components in staying active and getting the benefits from moving. Now, you might be sitting here with COPD and saying, wow, this feels really overwhelming, and I can understand why that would be. It's important to note that although the 150 minutes is kind of the goal, certainly anything is better than nothing, and beginning low and building slow, as I alluded to in the previous module, is the best way to succeed in using the benefits of exercise and physical activity for your condition. So again, as I mentioned in the previous module, there are 2 types of exercise training that are shown to have the most benefit for people with COPD. Those are aerobic exercise and strength/resistance training. Those will be the 2 main types of exercise that we speak about today, although I will also allude to stretching, balance training, yoga, and Tai Chi as other types of exercise that can be helpful for maintaining overall physical fitness. So let's start with aerobic training. And I don't mean the type of aerobic training that was popularized by Russell Simmons kind of throughout the 90s and 2000s. What I mean really, when I'm talking about aerobic training, is exercise or physical activity that gets you breathing more heavily and your heart beating more quickly. Typically, it involves a repetitive movement like walking, like swimming, like stepping, or like cycling. And it can either be completed in one continuous bout or in shorter intervals. I've provided a few examples here of progressively more challenging types of aerobic activity or exercise. So starting with kind of the walking category, walking at a leisurely pace would be easier than walking at a brisk pace, which would be easier than jogging, which would be easier than running. Under the cycling category here, working on a pedaler in your home might be easier than a stationary bike, which would be easier than road cycling or mountain biking. And then in the water kind of / swimming category, water walking would be easier than water aerobics, which would be easier than water jogging, which would be easier than swimming laps. And in all cases, but especially in the case of someone with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, beginning at the beginning of this challenge continuum is a great place to start with the option to progress the challenge over time. When talking about exercise, we often describe the FIT principles or FIT parameters. And FIT stands for frequency, intensity, time, and type. And when you're engaging in exercise, being able to fill in each of these categories allows you to clearly define what your program is. So let's use an example for aerobic exercise. So maybe the type you're going to do is walking. And the time, you'll perform the activity for 10 minutes at an intensity where you can talk but not sing, and at a frequency of 3 to 5 times per week. So all put together, these would be your FIT principles and would clearly describe an achievable aerobic exercise program. So the other type of exercise that's known to be helpful for people with COPD is resistance training. So that's also known as strength training or weights. And resistance training is any exercise that involves using one's muscles to overcome resistance applied to the body. And the goal is to increase muscular strength and endurance. So we may think of resistance training or weights as lifting these big heavy weights to your shoulder and then up over your head, or doing heavy squats with your legs. But really, resistance training can be done in multiple ways. One example, using your body weight, as in this gentleman doing a sit to stand, or this gentleman doing a bridge. And can be also be done using resistance bands or tubing, like this gentleman is working his quadriceps muscle with a TheraBand. So on this slide, I will provide some examples of resistance training, and particularly exercises and how they can be progressed over time. So this gentleman's standing from a chair using his hands. He could progress to standing from a chair without his hands, and finally to doing a squat with or without weight. For the upper body, this gentleman is doing a wall push-up. And he could progress to doing a countertop push-up, and perhaps to a knee or a full-fledged toe tip push-up. Again, as with aerobic exercise, beginning with simple progressions of each exercise is a wise thing to do before progressing onward to the more challenging ones. And again, you can use this concept of fit principles to develop a clear program. So let's use an example. Say that you selected some resistance exercises that you would like to do. And when you want to do them for a total of 30 minutes at an intensity where you do each set until your muscles fatigue, perhaps that might be 2 sets of 10 for each exercise at a frequency of 2 to 3 times per week. Again, putting all these together, you have your fit principles and you have a nice, coherent, achievable program to work on. In addition to aerobic and resistance exercise, there are other types of exercise that can be helpful in improving your overall fitness. For example, stretching, balance training, yoga, and Tai Chi, all of which, again, are known to improve fitness in the general population, however, have not been shown specifically through specific research to be particularly helpful with people with COPD, although they're great to do. So lastly, where could you find help when beginning or progressing an exercise program? Certainly your physician is a great place to seek help. Secondly, Burlington is lucky to have a program for people with COPD that allows them to learn about their condition and engage in exercise, and that's called the Inspired program. Information for the Inspired program can be found at this website. Thirdly, the Burlington Family Health Team, for whom I work, has a service called Burlington Community Access to Rehabilitative Services. We can be found on the Hamilton Niagara Haldeman Brant Healthline website, as well as can be contacted by email at bcars@burlingtonfht.com. And we provide physiotherapy services to people with a variety of conditions, and we could certainly help to get you hooked up with the right resources in Burlington. Lastly, there are several generalized community-based exercise programs in Burlington. First of all, many offered by the Alzheimer's Society, and they're called Sit to Be Fit. The website's there. And lastly, the YMCA offers programs called Balance Plus and Gentle Fit, which can be found again at that website listed below. So thank you so much for listening to these 2 modules. And again, please reach out to our email here if you have any questions and we could speak. Thank you so much.